All of his stuff looked good, so probably too good because it was probably snug, but he was different in everything that he did. He locked up different. He locked up snug.
Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to SNUG Wrestling. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Welcome to SNUG Wrestling. I am Edgar. I'm the host. Happy Sunday. Happy Forbidden Door Sunday. We have another weekend full of wrestling. We saw Friday Night Smackdown, which was a crazy, crazy show. And we're going to be talking about all of that and so much more today with my special guest, Mr. Bludd. MJ is in the house. How you doing, man? Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Edgar. This is actually the first time I've done this with another, wrestling podcast in the wrestling online wrestling community. I know a lot of people think that our community, the ICW, everybody thinks that we're these toxic fans. But the truth is, many of us just aspire to be wrestling analysts, or we're wrestling fans, and we care deeper than the casual fan does. So we're not toxic, we're passionate, and there's a difference.
Yes, dude. Wow, that's awesome, man. What an honor for me being the first time, for you to be on one of these podcasts, and hopefully it's the first of many. So yeah, man, and you're right. I like to show a lot of love and support for other content creators like yourself. I have a lot of buddies that also have podcasts, and we share each other's stuff, and there is a lot of toxic fans. There's a lot of people that really get into the debates really hardcore. Me, not so much. I try not to get into it, but sometimes, man, I can't help it.
I know exactly what you mean. Recent wrestling video I just posted on the channel was the last two I did. One is getting really good traction. It's almost to 20,000 views from just posting yesterday, and it's already over 600 likes. And that one was me specifically talking about Friday Night Smackdown, which was a great show. Personally, I think it had a bit of a middling point. I think the matches were great. They told their stories. They all have a purpose because they are serving that greater purpose of the qualifying matches for this weekend's Money in the Bank. But I felt like some of the quality of those matches was a bit middling. And when you're in Madison Square Garden of all venues, I'm expecting balls to the walls, like, this is awesome, this is wrestling style of chants, because it's funny. The week prior, when I believe that WWE, maybe was it Monday Night Raw, they were in Ohio, they were getting this is awesome chants in the first match, the opener. And that's been happening a lot lately with these shows, especially the more venues they've been selling out recently. I don't know what it is, but Papa H he's cooking in the kitchen, and he's got Shawn Michaels as a sous chef, and they are fucking pumping out 5-star quality shit here of the last year. And in my personal opinion, Triple H is and this may be a controversial take, but if you ask me, Triple H is 10 times the booker Vince has been in the last 20 years. And when it comes to the internet wrestling community, this toxicity, there are that toxic fan base that exists. I mean, it's almost like they're fucking Star Wars fans, especially in this current day and age, where you just, what's wrong with just sitting down and loving wrestling and watching it and being a fan of it? Why? Because you disagree with someone's prediction or their viewpoint. Do you feel like you need to tear someone down in the comment sections? Why is it that it has to be the way that you're booking it in your head, and it can't be an amalgamation of many people's ideas? Or even more than that, why can't you both be right in ways? What if part of what you think is going to happen is correct, and part of what this person thinks is going to happen is correct? Don't come in the comment section of one of my videos where I do perpetuate a very positive fan base. And if I see toxicity in my comments, I'll go after the person being toxic. I'll either delete their comments or I will block them from my page, because even though I would love the followers and I'm close to 10K, I'm almost at monetization, I'm close, I'm not going to have you create an unfun conversation in my comments when we're all wrestling fans and we all love this. And I get that your anger in the comments is coming from a place of passion, and that means that you love it. But there's a difference between loving wrestling and hating another pro wrestling fan just because they disagree with you. And This isn't the Monday Night Wars. We're not enemies. We're not against each other. We're all here because we're storytelling. We're here for the psychology. We're here for the pops, the cheers, the ups, the downs, the fucking roller coaster that is professional fucking wrestling, guys. And at the end of the day, if you don't like someone else's prediction, okay, comment your own, but you don't need to jump and reply on theirs and tear them down for what's making them excited for the story. Because if they're putting what they believe in the comment section as to what they think is going to happen, that means they're so excited that their brain started churning out ideas, and this is where they're hoping it goes, and that's okay. What's wrong with wanting a story to go a certain place? And then if they're wrong, they just get to be surprised. And I don't think you should tear someone down for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you mentioned your channels and stuff. I'm also a fan of your page too. And I wanted to kind of hear more about, what you do and kind of like what have you been up to lately over there on your channels?
So specifically, and Edgar, thank you very much for following and supporting. It's guys like you. And I want to shout out probably my most loyal follower, BT. I mentioned in a lot of my videos. He's Australian, and we message all the time. It is guys like you, guys like BT, guys like Josh, who's currently, we're going back and forth about what we think about the Bloodline and Heyman in my comments, or in my messaging, in private messaging. And you guys are the guys that make this shit fun. It's because at the heart, we're fans. And what got me onto this was I became a professional wrestling fan 21 years ago. My brother Brandon got me into it, and then my older brother Steven bought me SmackDown versus Raw 2007 and 8 in the same day as a birthday gift, and I became obsessed ever since. And there's a channel on TikTok called The Unforsakens. That is my childhood best friend Jonathan, who is over 10.5 million followers, because he dedicated himself to TikTok. And he had tried to push me into getting into TikTok 4 years ago, even prior to the pandemic, but I resisted it. And because to me, I never really believed in overnight fame and success. I felt like it was cheating. So I'm an actor. I have been an actor for almost 10 years, voice acting, screen acting. I've been on Hulu, I've been on Netflix, minor stuff, spoken stuff that's been cut, extra work, all that crap. But I always figured that the grind is the classic way to make it. You bust your ass and you get rewarded. And Jonathan, who never wanted any of that stuff in the beginning, just got very successful at it. And there was a part of me that became jealous, because I was like, you don't want it, but you're huge. I want it more than anything, and I can barely get my fucking feet wet. We're talking, I've had this account for 3.5, 4 years now, and it wasn't until WrestleMania 40 weekend I posted one of my first videos when I was reviewing night 1, and then I did night 2. Now, I had been doing voice acting stuff on the channel forever and movie review stuff on the channel forever, because those are passions of mine. The wrestling blew up huge, bigger in fact than anything I've ever done. The voice actress Tara Strong, who voices Harley Quinn, Timmy Turner, Raven from Teen Titans, woman of 1,000 voices. That was the highest, most viral video I'd ever done on my channel, when I got to do my Mark Hamill Joker impression with her at MegaCon last year, and have it filmed and everything. Her Harley to Mark Hamill's Joker.
I saw that one. Yeah, that was a good one.
But the moment I posted that same weekend, Roman Reigns is turning babyface, and that's the plug you used earlier in the weekend, leading up to this.
Yeah, there's a reason I use that one too, by the way, because look at what's happening.
Because I was right. And that was the thing. I get shit on for all my predictions, right? And it's funny. I predicted that 2.5 months ago, closing in on 3. Okay?
Yeah.
I said that before anybody else said it, before What Culture said it, before Cultaholics said it. I said it before Wrestle Talk, which is my favorite wrestling podcast other than my own. And I listen to them religiously every morning. Yeah. And I said it before anybody else had even dropped the prediction. The next day after I post that video, I'm in my car heading off to work, and I'm listening to my podcast, and the first thing I hear, is Wrestle Talk says it. Then because I also am a FedEx ground driver on the side to keep food on the table in between bookings. And so I'm in my truck loading, and then I hear, and I'm listening to What Culture says it. Then on the drive home, Cultaholic says it. And I'm like, well, that's funny. I'm not saying they got the idea from me, but I'm saying that I said it first. And since then, 3 months, I have had people jump down my throats calling me stupid. That's not it. He's never turning face. They'd never do that. Look, another thing about me, I'm a former professional wrestler myself. So I was trained in DSCW, Deep South Championship Wrestling, in upstate Georgia, in Morganton, the town my parents live in, up in Blue Ridge, like 15 minutes from the Tennessee line, in 2013. I only wrestled with them for about 6 to 7 months. I got trained, did all the conditioning, bump training, you know, all the shit for about 2 months. Then they started putting me on shows to job. Then I got to create a character, which was Brother Bludd, a gothic cult leader, whiteout contacts, goatee, shaved head, and it was inspired in a mix between Straight Edge Society, CM Punk, a little bit of Taker, and then the Shield, because I had the flak pants, boots. I still have the cutoff shirt that goes over the thing. I had black painted fingernails, black eyeliner.
That's crazy.
And I spoke and I'm a voice actor, so I thought, well, Brother Bludd, because I also love Teen Titans. And he's the main villain from the cult leader in Teen Titans. And they had me do a cult gimmick in DSCW. And I had 2 guys that were also trained with me that were my backup to kind of protect any of my failures in the ring. And I would talk into the microphone like this. My name is Brother Bludd, and I'm here to save professional wrestling. And it was...
Oh, that's tight.
And my finish was the Blood Drive, which is essentially a lifting or an elevated fisherman hooks DDT. So hook, run forward, lift up, and then driver into the ground. So like a fisherman suplex driver. And that was called the Blood Drive. And then I changed it to the Blood Drop. But then I wound up cracking my shoulder blade. And wrestling was done for 1.5 years, didn't heal properly. And I fell off the back of a ladder in a high spot, slipped on sweat on top, kind of went down 10 feet back first into the ring apron because I was supposed to moonsault from the ladder into the ring onto an opponent as a high spot. Slipped like a goddamn cartoon character on a banana peel, crack into the apron. One of the worst nights of my life, and one of the worst.
Yeah, I bet.
Felt. And I've had 2 open heart surgeries, and that was one of the worst pains I've ever felt. And I may have also falsified my medical records to get them to sign off on me.
Oh no!
I had open heart surgery.
Damn.
But it was one of those things where the last time I got into the ring was 2017 or early 18, and that was at I Believe in Wrestling over in Orlando, Florida. Jonathan, again, the Unforsakens, had kind of gotten us a little spot over there where we got to go to do a wrestling tryout with them because at that point, ring rust is real. And that was the last time I really got to get in the ring and fuck around and have some fun. And then since then, I haven't been an active wrestler. But
do you miss it?
Every day, because Jonathan, myself, and a former friend of ours, who I won't mention, we were backyard wrestlers for over 8 years. And we had a YouTube channel, and we had birthday parties, and we did, like, at our local park here. We literally wrestled from 2006, late 2006 to 2013, 2014. And we had just been doing it forever. Jonathan and I started it, brought other people in, but we were every Sunday without fail at the park, at the beach, didn't matter, at a birthday party for years on end at our park. And there is footage on my YouTube channel. At some point, I'm going to cut together a bunch of stuff and make a little montage for my channel just so everybody can see what, 13-year-old and 19-year-old me look like, or 20-year-old me look like. But
nice.
It was, we were addicted. We trained ourselves in the pool first, then on mattresses, then in the front yard, and then we started going to the park when no one was there on Sundays, pulled the soccer goals together at our local park and made it look like a 4-side to contain us in a ring and just started beating the shit out of each other. But everything we did, we had practiced for months and months and months. We knew how to do it safe. We knew how to do it carefully. We knew how to protect each other. We knew how to make sure that, you know, chins were tucked, shoulders down, elbows down, flat. Like we got hurt sometimes because you're landing on open park ground. But there is a difference between jumping off a fucking roof through a table and, hey, I'm not throwing caution to the wind. Let's go over what we're going to do first. Let's talk about it before the people get here. Okay, what are you comfortable with? Do you feel it today? Do you not? Like, you communicate. And we created a bond. And that's what really cemented my love for wrestling, because at a time in my life where I was going through a second divorce with my parents, and I had nothing. I had wrestling.
Yeah.
And I didn't just and my best friendships were formed off of wrestling, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, specifically with Jonathan. And I'm shouting out the Unforsakens on TikTok. He's actually driving down. He's already here now, but him, his girl, me, and my wife, we're all going to Florida SuperCon this next week on a road trip together. But
that's dope.
But Jonathan's friendship truly is what elevated my love for wrestling even more, because we became obsessed. And I mean, there was not a time he spent the night or came over where we didn't talk about wrestling. It wasn't about wrestling. It wasn't about it wasn't about editing a video we just shot for Backyard Wrestling. It wasn't, let's start at 9 o'clock. My mom gives us her debit card. We run to Publix, which is a supermarket on our coast, and we get fried chicken and Edwards, pie and freaking pizza rolls and Ocean Spray juice. And we're making a night marathon at it. Start with Halo 3, gravitate to Naruto Ultimate Ninja 3, freaking Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, and then end with some SmackDown versus Raw until 4 a.m.
Hell yeah.
We literally created our characters in the game exactly how we felt we would be if we had created a gimmick. What it would be for us if we walk in the company. This is who I'm going to be, who I project myself as. This is what we had, everything in those games, from what we believed they liked, they didn't like, what their moveset would be based on why. We never gave ourselves moves we could not do in real life. We took it so seriously. When a new game released, he and I were there at midnight release, picking it up. I still remember the SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, picking up our SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 lunch boxes that came with our pre-order. And we went to the fair, went back to my house, and we spent 3 hours apiece, 3 hours on his character, 3 hours on mine. And then we spent 2 hours on entrances, 2 hours on movesets, and then we started playing. We wouldn't
That's serious.
You got to understand, that was our everything. We didn't miss a yearly release, not a Monday Night Raw, not a SmackDown. Hell, we suffered through the WWE ECW era together. And we were willing to watch fucking Superstars when it first came out. I mean, we were watching Tough Enough. I suffered through Total Bellas as long as I could. Just because I figured, well, what if they drop a clue for something in the show with Daniel Bryan or John Cena, and I don't want to miss it. So I'm like, it correlates back, because that's back when they were tying in the show to the actual live broadcasts. So weekly episodes had effect, and I was like, God, I'll miss some kind of whatever with the Yes movement, right?
Right.
So it was all in. I mean, we had a rule for WrestleManias. You could talk during any match you wanted, but if we had groups over, the rule was this, and it was Jonathan's rule. You do not fucking talk during Undertaker's matches. Undertaker's WrestleMania streak match.
That's a good rule.
Silent completely. You were to pay attention wholeheartedly. Do not talk. Nothing. If you talk, you have to leave the room. That was the rule. And Jonathan, 6'4" Colombian gym rat. He ain't fucking around. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart. But he lives and dies by Kane. 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 This man's got everything you could think of. Fucking Kane. Me, Jeff Hardy is what grabbed my heart, what made me love high flying, the hardcore style, backyard wrestling, professional wrestling. He inspired my entire middle school and high school. Was the eyeliner, the fingernail paint, the weird music, the way that I talked and my cadences and how I spoke to people. And Jonathan was one who got me into rock music. So I never liked rock music because my sisters were old school. We're all adopted, but we're all half blood, same mom, different dads. And my four sisters, they were raised in very gentrified ghetto area of Orlando because it was the 90s, and this is a long time ago. And I'm older than I look. And they only listen to like rap, and I love rap. Eminem is my fucking dog. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm born early '90s, so I'm coming up with before he debuted and Underground and you know all this other shit. And then
Yeah.
hated country, but Jonathan, because of pro wrestling and because of Jonathan, I fell in love with rock music. Before I fell in love with rock music from Jonathan, who showed me 3 Days Grace, Get Out Alive from their 1X album, which is a perfect album, my favorite album of all time. That's what made me fall in love. It was then when across the nation, you get the guns, the drugs from my generation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Saints, no combination. And it was that entrance from WWE that I was like, what is this? This is, why am I feeling adrenaline to this?
Yeah.
Same thing with SmackDown's old theme. Like, you know, like the real old one. What is it? I'm standing here, still standing here. Don't question my, like, people don't realize, like, there is eras that get
it grabs you, dude.
There are eras.
You know,
so many people love to gravitate to the Attitude Era, right? The Attitude Era is, if you ask 80% of wrestling fans, oh, when did you start watching wrestling? Oh, when did you love wrestling? Oh, the Attitude Era, bro. Like the Attitude Era. Yeah. And here's the thing.
Everyone.
And the Attitude Era was great. But if you go back and watch the Attitude Era, 40% of it is shit.
You're right.
It is sexist, homophobic. The match, the work rate is the work rate in the Attitude Era. Everything ends in some wonky fucking finish. You almost never got a finish to a match. It was always like, people shit on like 2010 to 2016, 17 era of WWE, Vince's latter years being the booker. And it's like, bro, he was worse than the Attitude Era. And in the Attitude Era, he was involved in a bunch of these finishes. Like, it's not just, he's lazily keeping he doesn't want to basically do, Vince loves his 50-50 booking, but it's not like back then where it was DQ, running, DQ, weapons, chair shot, someone sneaks in, horns, Vince is here, Vince is there, he's calling for the bell, he said, like, he was always making sure that you didn't get a fucking finish, so you bought a pay-per-view to knock up their pay-per-view buy rates. You wanted to see this storyline conclude, you had to pay for it. And a bunch of times, remember, we never got finishes. We never got conclusions. Stories were just dropped and never mentioned again. Like,
it's so funny. I just had this conversation yesterday with one of my uncles, because my uncles are like real old school, like typical Mexican, Hispanic dudes. They don't really speak a whole lot of English, and every now and then they'll come over. I'll go over there. I'll put on some wrestling, some modern wrestling. Like, I think we were watching Clash at the Castle last time. It was a bunch of and they made a joke about it. They're like, "Oh, Edgar's here. He's gonna want to put on some wrestling." And then I'm like, "Nah, I'm not gonna torture you guys anymore like I did last time." But one of my uncles was like, "Man, all these new guys. I don't know these new guys. Like, I remember the Undertaker, El Kane, and like mentioning all these guys from the Attitude Era. That's when they liked wrestling too, because of like the characters, the costumes, and that's what people liked about the Attitude Era. There weren't even wrestling fans, but they knew who they were because of their characters.
Yeah, but it's also because it was the era where right before WWE was damn near about to freaking go bankrupt, and then WCW was kicking their ass because Vince could not get off of everybody needs to be a gimmick that is that of an average everyday Joe, fucking IRS, a fucking garbage man. Like, everything had to be this super horrible gimmick because he went from booking everything as, hey, everything's going to be super colorful Saturday morning characters, to now everybody's going to have a 9-to-5 job. And then it's like, and then the NWO comes out and they go, yeah, we're about to binge all over and take your fans. Right. And then he had to inject a little bit of lethal poison. And then it was like, okay, now we're off to the races.
Now we're cooking.
83 weeks they got their asses kicked in the ratings.
Yeah,
and it's
83.
Like, no more. And it's just, I understand why people love the Attitude Era, right? Because nostalgia is the highest selling thing of all time, especially nowadays. Nostalgia is everything. So everything's remade, rebooted, redone, recast. Like, it's nostalgia sells.
Yeah.
But when you look at it through a closed lens, it's easy to get wrapped up in, oh, how great it used to be. But if you stare at a picture too long, you start to notice the imperfections, don't you? So it's not that the Attitude Era wasn't great. It helped save WWE. It saved professional wrestling, really. And it brought professional wrestling into the mainstream, where people from all other walks of entertainment were like, I got to get in on this shit. They wanted to be a part of it. And like they did back in the original WrestleManias, like Cyndi Lauper and Ali and all this other shit. But this was different. This was the pop punk era in the world of entertainment. Smash Mouth and Sugar Ray and Eminem's up here and everything in that 1998 to 2002 realm of time in movies, in everything.
Just pop culture in general.
It was literally all about the edginess. It was all about fucking having attitude. And that's why it worked so well then. But you couldn't replicate it again today because everybody's too PC and everybody is a little too sensitive. And you could not run 89% of the shit that you did in the Attitude Era would get WWE canceled today.
Yeah.
Canceled.
For sure.
All their sponsors gone.
And it seems like they're trying to get back to like some of that edginess now that they're approaching the Netflix deal and Triple H is taking over.
Man.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an exciting time. But let me ask you something else, Mr. Bludd. So we talked a little bit about your channels. We talked a little bit about your former wrestling career, some of the voice acting that you have done. Did we get the chance to talk about like the podcast? So you have the Blood Rush Wrestling podcast. Is that the name of your TikTok channel, or do you actually do like weekly shows that you put out on like Apple Podcasts and things like that? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. So I don't put it out on Apple Podcast or any podcast area. So I coined the term podcast because when I was trying to figure out what to name the channel, and I'll just out myself here, I went on Google and was like, well, what is considered a podcast? And it's not generally considered live to be a podcast. It can be a conversation, a topic, a discussion. It can be recorded, then posted. So to me, a podcast, my ultimate goal with the channel is this, because TikTok is apparently coming to an end at some point in the next year. Apparently. It was voted on, passed. Now they're trying to fight it, repeal it, all this other crap. But in the off chance that it unfortunately meets its conclusion, much like Vine did, very abruptly, very unfairly, because Vine got a lot of people famous. And if it does, the plan was I wanted to build the audience on TikTok so much, get it as high as I can before that inevitable we're done comes. Or if they announce, hey, on this day, TikTok servers will be offline and you'll have X amount of time, whatever. Because I feel like they'd have to give us a note. I wanted to take as many of my following as I could over to YouTube. And going to YouTube with, at this point, I'm almost at 10,000K. By the time they get rid of TikTok, I assume I'll be between 15 to 20 at the rate that I just gained 220 followers off the Friday video alone in 2 days. Since WrestleMania 40, I had 4,567 subscribers when I turned on WrestleMania Night 1, sitting on the couch with my wife, my in-laws, and we watched it. That's how many I had. By that next Wednesday, I had gained 2,300 followers from just doing wrestling content. Since WrestleMania 40 Night 1, I've gone from 4,567 to now, before I got with you, 9,641.
Nice. Congrats.
So thank you. So if I can grow this exponentially, the plan is to take the format of TikTok out of this, 4:6 or whatever the hell they call this aspect ratio, to 9x16 or whatever it is for YouTube and turn it into a broader rectangular format where it's not going to be 3 to 4 minute videos. It's going to be fucking conversations. It's going to be things like this, where I am video chatting, where I have a guest in, get enough money maybe and fly a guest in for a weekend. They stay at my house in my guest room and we can do a couple of shows, things like that, where they can be 15 to 30 minute videos. So if you are driving and you have your phone, YouTube Premium, click that thing close, drive safe, drive hands-free. You can just listen to me. When I'm on my route, my FedEx route, my wireless goes in and I have YouTube Premium. I literally put on the 6 Feet Under podcast. I put on Maven. I put on Chris Van Vliet. I literally put that shit in my lunchbox, earpiece in, and I literally run my stops and do my day listening to wrestling all day. It's literally consumed the majority of my life. I love it that much. But it also keeps me informed and up to date on good talking points and helping me understand, okay, well, based on what I just saw and what I thought is happening, and now what they've reported, now I can get the ball rolling on more content. And I will eventually, when I grow this enough, I want to take at least, because I know not all 15,000 are going to come over to YouTube. A lot of people are just too lazy to click. But if I can grab 40 to 50% of that audience, well, I go over to YouTube. I'm already over 1,000 for monetization there. I can start doing ad revenue. I can start doing merchandise because I've been designing T-shirts. That logo that is my profile picture on my channel is a logo I created.
That's just tight, by the way. That's just cool.
I am Polynesian. If you guys don't know, I'm actually Maori. So Polynesian is going to be like Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, Maori. I'm half black, half Maori. So just like, let's say The Rock, I'm both mixed black and Polynesian. Where you have Roman, he is Polynesian and French. So it's one of those things where I have my tamoko that's being worked on still, and it goes all the way across to my chest. And it's one of those things where the culture for me is ever present. So I wanted to, in this era of the bloodline being so big, take my history, my culture, and project that through, because that's what's grabbing everybody else's attention. That's why the logo is red and black, like the bloodline. That's why I'm Mr. Bludd. Mr. Bludd worked out so perfect because bloodline, he's also Polynesian. It fits. I can be the figurehead Polynesian wrestling analyst, because no one else is doing that that's like me, that can say that they have Iwi descent from Maori bloodline, who can say they're a former professional wrestler, who can sit here and do this and talk about it and actually have good points, because I understand wrestling psychology. So if I build this up, I can be the pioneer of that for this type of genre. And then when I get over to something like, let's say, Apple Podcasts, well, guess what? Following just keeps going up and up.
Nice, dude. Yeah, hopefully then all that stuff works out, man. Because I mean, you called it with your prediction of Roman Reigns turning babyface, and after what went down on Friday Night Smackdown, I'm pretty sure Paul Heyman is a babyface now. That's how
what I said. Yep, he is a babyface. He has to be.
That pop that he got when he said, "I acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief." Boom. And I'm just like, holy shit, Paul Heyman turned babyface. People are asking for Roman Reigns to come back.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a big babyface run.
That's what's so, we wind the clock back to August of 2020. He returns, right? Keep in mind, he was gonna quit months before that. He was gonna be done when he had to back out of Mania because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He sat at home for months saying, I think I'm done. He said in his biography that they did for A&E that he was contemplating retiring. He's like, I don't want to come back and they're going to make me do the same thing that's not working. And then he created the tribal chief character. And 4 years ago, if you'd have told me everything that we got, all the people that Roman was able to put over because they were just affiliated with the bloodline story. You have literally can point to several superstars whose stocks rose because they lost to Roman, okay? Or because they were affiliated long-term with Roman. They were directionless, like Sami Zayn was directionless. And he is
Yeah.
probably the greatest success story coming out of this bloodline story, other than Roman. The greatest success story is Sammy, because people liked Sammy before. They fucking love Sammy now. And when you really think about how, when we get to something like Friday, and Paul, how even at one point in the story with Roman early on in the bloodline, he kicked Paul out of it because he thought he betrayed him for Brock. A lot of people forget these angles that happen because the story spans so long. That's a thread that most people forget. That at one point, Heyman was a traitor, quote unquote, and tried to basically have Brock take Roman down for him just to wind it back with Roman. And it turned out it was a ruse, apparently, or whatever confusing looking that Vince did. And it's like, well, look at him now, given this friggin' Emmy award-winning performance. Like,
oh man,
all the attention to detail,
so
not
great.
shaving to make it look like he's distraught, probably sleep depriving himself on purpose to get that really puffy red look in his eyes. Like, he's like in this,
the commitment,
sell this shit. Like, Paul Heyman could sell virginity back to a freaking Christ BC prostitute. Okay, he could literally sell the virginity back. Okay, he could sell water to the ocean. Like, this guy.
Yeah.
You get Paul on a mic. The two greatest managers in history are Bobby the Brain Heenan and Paul fucking Heyman. Period. Yeah. Other than, like, let's say Triple H, and at one point Vince McMahon, and at one point Eric Bischoff, Heyman has got to be in the conversation for the top 5 greatest wrestling minds of all time. He has to be. I mean, no one else is able to command and get asses in seats. I feel like whatever their sellouts would be at, let's say, a stadium. Let's say a stadium was like called 70,000. I think without Paul selling that extra mile on the mic every week leading up to a show, you're 25 to 30,000 less seats faster than you would have sold them, or you would have been giving out those freebie tickets to fill it. And or it's going to start looking like an AEW show.
So, oh man, yeah, dude, I felt so bad for Paul Heyman. Okay, first of all, this guy, like, he doesn't need to be taking any bumps. The fact that he's even still in the wrestling business doing what he does is great. But then he's like, yeah, sure, I'll, put power bomb me through a table. It's like, bro,
talk about a trooper.
Oh my god, dude!
I was worried about him. I thought he smacked his head on the foot of one of the office chairs.
It looked like he did. It looked like, man, I guess, who was it that picked him up? Was it Solo, the one that gave him the power bomb?
No, so he had Jacob Fatu do Roman's position.
Oh, okay, then, so Jacob Fatu
were on the outsides holding for Dean and Seth.
I think he kind
of watching seething in the corner.
So I think Jacob Fatu might have kind of underestimated how big Paul Heyman actually is.
They had to get him up there for a second. He almost looked like he was going to slip because Paul's sitting there getting that face like, oh shit.
Yeah, they were struggling.
Why did I agree to this?
It took 4 big ass Samoans to get Paul Heyman up there in power bomb form.
You know what's even more impressive about that bump? Because generally, so a lot of people who watch wrestling, if you're casual, you don't know this. But many, almost, if you are ever in an angle, they put you through bump training. So refs go through bump training. Okay, wrestlers go through bump training. Announcers have gone through bump training. Some of the freaking the ring announcers, like Samantha Irvin, Lillian Garcia, so involved. Some of them go through bump training because they might be involved in an angle. They got to get knocked off the apron on accident, or they get pushed over in the ring. The ring, I don't care who you are. Unless you have been slammed in that ring, you can't tell me you don't hurt. So, and everything in that fucking ring hurts because you can't script gravity. So when you look at Paul Heyman, who's easily at his age and his weight, 250 pounds at his size, possibly, and at his age, he's what, late 50s?
I think he's in his 60s already, dude.
Possibly, and the fact that when would they even have run him through bump training to get him ring ready, calloused up to take a bump like that? That tells me that they said, "Hey, can you go out there and do this? Look, the table's padded. It's a crash table. It's not gonna hurt you. Like, we're gonna clear the table off. You won't hit anything. Like, we're gonna get all the pins and monitors off." He's a trooper at his age. trusting Jacob Fatu, a guy he probably literally just met a couple months ago when he got signed and came in, has been training. They've been running story probably backstage. He's been talking to him for a while to get to know him better, because that's the kind of guy Paul is. He wants to know the talent he's going to be working with. To trust this guy to pick your ass up 6.5, 7 feet in the air is where his head was, and drop him back first on a table when Paul is not a fucking professional wrestler. The dedication to Paul. If you don't respect Paul Heyman, fuck you.
Yeah, for real. Nah, for real. And I was waiting to see, like, someone has to come out to save this guy, right? Someone, like, no one showed up. I mean, CM Punk, he was kind of written off by Drew McIntyre last week on SmackDown.
Great.
So we weren't gonna get no Punk. For a second, I thought we were gonna get Roman Reigns, but I'm like,
nah, his dad just,
oh, that's true.
Because I got a lot of those comments too on that video with like, Roman, if Roman don't show up next week, I'm gonna be disappointed. I'm like, Sika Anawahi died on like Tuesday. He just died. I guarantee you they haven't even probably had the service yet, unless it was just this weekend. But because they've got to go through everything, cause of death. They got to go through autopsy. Then you've got to get the service, the casket, send out all the the invites for people to come, set up the venue. Like, that shit have just happened in 2 days. And even then, if you are a fan of Roman and you really do love him as a character and as a human being, Leati Joe Anawahi, Roman Reigns, if you really care, you wouldn't want him to come back next week. You would want him to grieve. You would want him to take time with his family. You would want him to be there for Afa. You would want him to be there for his children who just lost their grandfather. Okay, and for those who don't know, Roman has 5 kids, 2 sets of twins, and then 1, I think, extra boy or extra girl. But this is also a man who's hurting. And even though I believe that Sika's passing is going to definitely tie into the story of he comes back, because like I said, this baby face run he's going to be on, and all you doubters who think he's not going to be a baby face, you just don't understand professional wrestling. Why on earth would they set Solo up the way they have if it wasn't because he was stealing Roman's place? Roman isn't there to defend his place, so there's the void filler in Solo Sikoa. Why? Someone was like, well, how on earth would they have gotten the Ulafala, the lay of the chief? How else would they have gotten unless Roman gave it to him? And I said, in storyline, they could have attacked him, jumped him, or stole it from him. If you got the Ulafala or the lay from Roman, why the fuck would you put it in a black fucking sack like you were hiding it? Not just the reveal, but you do that if you're hiding it. You only hide some shit if you're not supposed to have some shit. Okay? And
see, that didn't even cross my mind.
Well, for me, it was just like, I'm like, what the fuck's that black bag? That looks a little shady. And also, look at how you treat the Ulafala, the lei. You treat that thing like it is a fragile, beautiful piece of history. You notice how every time Paul has it, he lifts it very gently and sets it over. And Roman very carefully always places it on the outsides of his traps. Solo palmed that shit in the bag and then pulled it out like it was a crumpled piece of paper.
Yeah.
That tells me that Roman didn't give that motherfucker shit. Solo took that shit. Keep in mind, when that Ulafala, the lei, came into play at, what was it, Hell in a Cell in 2020 in the I Quit match between him and Jey Uso. Okay? It was Sika, his own father, who bestowed the Ulafala, the lei of the chief, on to Roman. As a sign that he was acknowledged as the tribal chief. It's a ceremonial. He had to beat Jey to have that placed upon him. Because if he didn't have beat Jey, Jey would have had it placed upon him. Roman had to choke out Jimmy just to get Jey to quit, just to get that motherfucking thing.
True.
I had another person in my comments who tried to sit there and tell me, well, Roman's not going to be a face because he would never go against family. And I said, didn't he choke Jimmy out to get Jey to quit? Did he not verse the Usos in a fucking tag match last year with Solo for supremacy and for the fucking...
He had multiple matches with Jey too, right?
Yeah, he's had 3.
Yeah.
The 2 in like 2020 or 2021, and then last year. And I'm like, he would never go against family. Wasn't he literally agreeing to face The Rock at WrestleMania before the Cody, We Want Cody happened? Bullshit, he wouldn't go against fucking family. This guy has slapped freaking Jay across the face how many times? He's disrespected Jimmy how many times? The only person he wouldn't go against is Solo because he's afraid of him, which we've seen all the hints in story that he was afraid of Solo. But
How do you feel?
Roman's healed.
How have you been feeling about seeing all these new people come in? Like we saw Jacob Fatu, and we have like we have an entire new bloodline now.
Completely. It's like Bloodline 2.0. I think Ollie Davis on Wrestle Talk is trying to coin it very passionately. New Blood is what he wants to be called. But I think so. A lot of people are hating on it because they're not seeing the bigger picture. The whole point of all these new guys not being Roman, Jimmy, Jay, a Sammy. That's the point. It's supposed to piss you off. It's supposed to get mega heat because you are not them. It's the same thing like that famous Harry Potter meme. How dare you stand where he stood? It's you are supposed to see Solo not as replacing Roman, not his next in line. You're supposed to see Solo as the false god, the one who's perpetuating his own legacy, his own bullshit, and then trying to act like it's owed to him. Whereas Roman earned it through dastardly bullshit, but he earned it and he maintained it. And he knew how to be a tribal chief who only did violence when it was necessary. He never just attacked anybody and everybody. How many times was he in the ring with somebody and he just had a full-blown normal conversation when he could have jumped him? Roman was articulate, calculated, like a mob boss. He didn't do anything that didn't have a purpose for something else. He was the cool hand, okay? Yeah. Solo is the swift hand, the one that acts without thinking. He acts on ego. He acts on pride. He acts on malice, revenge, okay? And that's the thing about this story. I love that Tom is there, Tonga's there, Jacob is there, because it's them basically going, okay, well, look, here's your new bloodline. Mega heat. You know why? Because Solo ain't Roman. Because Tama ain't Jay, the right-hand man. Because Tonga ain't Jimmy. Okay?
Yeah. And he used the same titles that Roman Reigns was using, like the enforcer, the right-hand man, you know?
Yes, exactly. And Jacob, notice how, remember they waited on bringing Jacob Fatu in when he signed 2 months ago because they, quote unquote, was reported they were afraid he would overshadow Solo.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up.
But Jacob is literally the new enforcer, which is still replacing who Solo was anyway.
Yeah, and it might be too soon to tell, but when I saw all of them in the ring on this past Friday Night Smackdown, Jacob Fatu, he's outshining the other two. But Solo, I didn't get that. I didn't get that that feeling that Jacob Fatu is over I guess standing out more than Solo Sikoa. Like Solo Sikoa.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
I thought that it was gonna be like, well, Jacob Fatu's here now. So Solo Sikoa, he's not the big deal anymore, you know, but I didn't get that feeling. I don't know if that was just me or how you felt, but I didn't think he was overshadowing it.
I agree with you, and I'll tell you, I agree with you mainly because Solo, they were afraid of Jacob overshadowing Solo, I think, on ring ability. And I think perhaps his charisma and magnetism. You see, Jacob is incredibly charismatic. Notice how even when he's fucking shit up, the crowd was going nuts for him. And it's funny though, because people forget with this new version of Solo, this new part of his character arc where he's actually talking, he's actually got a personality. They were cheering for Solo to dethrone Roman a year ago. Every time there was something where it looked like Solo was going to be the one to take down Roman or turn on him. Every time they panned the camera to him when they hinted at it, The crowd went fucking nuts and chanted Solo. People forget they loved Solo. Just like the fans are so fickle, they forgot at one point they loved Roman. They loved Roman after
This shit is so
run.
fucking crazy, dude. I love it.
People forget it. They forget they loved Roman after the Shield breakup. They loved him all the way up until the 2015 Royal Rumble. They loved him. Just because he wasn't Daniel Bryan, they hated him. And just because Solo isn't Roman, they hate him. But that's why he's not overshadowing Jacob, and Jacob isn't overshadowing him, because they're connecting with the audience in two different ways, but on the same level. Jacob is connecting on pure ability, magnetism, and charisma. And that look, just his look. He's got a great look.
He's got that presence,
And he's got an explosiveness to him. It's like Braun Breaker as a Samoan. But Solo is on that level because he's got mega heat. Got partial go away heat, but he's got mega heat. You see Solo, and you are willing to pay to see someone beat his ass. Before Jacob debuted the Friday before last, when Solo was in the corner of the ring, and Cody, Kevin, and Randy had that motherfucker trapped, and he's just does the smile reveal. Everybody before that smile, the crowd was going insane for those three to kick the shit out of him. They wanted them to beat him like a scalded dog. To quote okay, and it speaks to people who doubt Triple H. It's like, dude, he clearly knows what he's doing. You think he's setting you up to react the way he wants you to without forcing it down your throat like Vince did. Vince tried to force you to react the way he wanted you to by fucking shoving it in your face till you caved in. Triple H is telling a story on purpose to make Solo the false uptaker of Roman's mantle, and they're turning Roman babyface organically without him even being there, because you hate Solo so much you're cheering for Roman when you were booing the fuck out of this man for 4 years. Triple H just masterminded a face turn without the one guy who's turning face even being present. Between Paul Heyman's performance in the story and Roman's absence causing objectivity with the crowd to turn against Solo, someone they actually liked at one point, you have organically turned Roman's face without him even needing to say a fucking word.
Oh man, they kind of did
H ain't that motherfucker. Is a fucking Michelin star chef.
That dude, I get kind of annoyed when people say like, "Oh, Triple H, he's not doing much of anything." I'm like, bro, come on now.
He's booked the last 2 years better than the last fucking 20 were booked by Vince. Are you kidding?
And they kind of did the same thing with CM Punk, how he was pretty much the heel at that Clash of the Castle, and then they brought him back on SmackDown in Chicago, and they beat the crap out of him in his hometown.
Yeah,
and basically they turned the heat back on Drew McIntyre.
What a great segment that was. One thing I love about them firing Kevin Dunn, their production has gone up exponentially. And every week I get excited about these continuous one takes. What's going to happen? Look in the background. There's clues for things. There were so many clues in the background for the Wyatt Six. There was one this past Monday that I called out before it was reported. When Chad Gable arrived, whose picture was on one of the travel trailers for the set, but Alexa Bliss's face as Sister Abigail when she was with freaking Bray. Like, Triple H is not good at setting up stories and telling stories. This man is using Easter eggs like it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And rumor has it the MCU stories were a major influence on the January through April storytelling of the actual Bloodline Cody Rhodes saga. That apparently it was heavily inspired. The booking choices were heavily inspired off of the in-game style. Like
that's why there's like a lot of memes about that movie when all that stuff went down.
Seth is Iron Man. Seth was Iron Man. Sacrificed his back, his knee, and his championship. Snapped it. I am Seth freaking Rollins. Roman loses. Captain America prevails. Cap is still left standing, even though Cap and Iron Man always had their differences. They worked together in the end. Seth and Cody always had their differences. They worked together in the end to snap away Thanos. And it's just hats off. The product is so fucking hot right now. It's so good. Which I think should bring us on to our next point. I know you want to talk about. What's the antithesis of AEW?
Oh man, you want to get into some AEW talk now?
Let's get into Dub.
I'm down.
I feel like that was a perfect segue.
Yeah, man. So Forbidden Door is gonna be going down here in a couple hours. So we're recording the Sunday of Forbidden Door right before the show. By the time this comes out, Forbidden Door is gonna be said and done with. Are you gonna catch this pay-per-view?
No.
I'm
not
Me neither.
an AEW fan.
Okay.
And this is where I'm going to get a lot of heat. So look, I loved AEW the first year and a half, 2 years on. And the more and more and more that Tony focused too much on being a friend rather than a boss, you could feel it and see it affecting the product on a week-to-week basis. The brawl out bullshit, which I'm on Punk's side. It doesn't matter if Punk opened his mouth. He could have said whatever the fuck he wants. It's a free country. They don't give you the right to kick someone's fucking locker room door in. Okay? Which apparently a lot of people said, oh, that didn't happen, this, that, and the third. Matt Hardy was just on Busted Open Radio. And when he was talking about that incident with the brawl out, said, well, Punk said what he said. And, the guys got heated, and then they go to him, and they get aggravated. It starts a fight. He basically just told us that the rumor that they kicked the door in is true. He said words. They incited violence. Kicked the door in. His dog gets hurt. Kenny tries to protect his dog. Ace Steel's wife's in the room. He's furious that his wife's in the room while these guys are about to get violent. He starts biting people. You can say whatever the fuck you want. You don't gotta. It doesn't mean if someone can say whatever the hell, you don't gotta react to it. And that's where I started losing interest in AEW. I thought, oh, Punk's in trouble. That's fair because he cussed and all this other shit and whatever and said what he wanted to say. But he needed to get it off his chest because I believe when I look at Matt and Nick Jackson, I genuinely feel this weird air of toxicity from them. There's something about the way they walk, they talk, they look, they act. It reminds me of the antagonistic bullies I had in high school who acted like angels but had an ulterior motive. And, why would Punk lie? Punk has never lied because Punk doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks to lie, to feel the need to lie. He doesn't. This man, when he was on Ariel Helwani and told us the story earlier this year about everything, remember, he said, I didn't sign an NDA for anything that I did that night.
That's true. That was the big line that was like, holy shit. There's a reason why they made him sign an NDA. That says a lot.
Yeah. And he's not allowed to talk about it. But, one day, if AEW closes, and I'm not wishing this on the company, I want this company to get their head out of their fucking ass. Competition is only going to make the products better. The better AEW does, the better the Dub is going to do, the better TNA is going to do, the better New Japan is going to do. Everybody steps up in an industry when there's one company firing on so many cylinders that it starts looking like the scales are about to turn. And I mean, it happened it literally took WCW almost driving WWE out of business. That literally was the launch of the Attitude Era in response to save themselves from the sinking ship. Eric Bischoff has been very critical of AEW, and he has every right to be. He had a working business relationship with them in the beginning. And he was like, he started seeing all the problems, all the issues that were going on. He's like, this is going to be WCW all over again. And, and then Tony gets butthurt because that's what Tony fucking does. He gets butthurt. He doesn't know how to take criticism. He thinks because he's rich, it makes him infallible. He's just a younger, just as equally egotistical fucking megalomaniac as Vince. I don't care. He's just Vince without being a fucking pervert. And as far
that we know of, yeah.
yeah, because all this shit, because all these allegations in the unfortunate lawsuit that's going on with that woman, these allegations are horrific. And for everybody who also in my comments keeps saying, "Oh, Brock Lesnar this and Brock Lesnar that, Brock's going to come back, Brock this," Brock is named in the lawsuit as the former UFC heavyweight champion that had this poor woman, okay, offered to him in his contract for sexual favors and trafficking. That's where the charges are coming from, trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to be forced to elicit sexual favors for the former UFC world heavyweight champion to get this world heavyweight champion to re-sign. What other former UFC world heavyweight champions that have ever been in WWE that were going to need to be re-signed? Because I don't think Ronda Rousey.
I was gonna say Ronda.
I don't think Ronda's the carpet muncher. So I don't think she would need this Grant woman. Okay. So when I look at this, you guys realize that she just paused at the behest of the FBI, the fucking FBI. She just paused her entire lawsuit because they asked her to, so they could launch an internal investigation into Vince, John Laurinaitis, and Brock Lesnar. He's not coming back right now, guys. He's kind of busy. Mm-hmm. So let's stop plugging that in my comments, because when I see that man's name, I respect what he's done in the business. I respect his acumen. I respect his pure athletic ability. But it's the same thing. I can respect your ability and not need to see it. It's just like Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit will forever always be mentioned in the echelon of names of one of the greatest wrestlers, one of the greatest technicians of all time. Period. Yeah. But he was a horrific man at the end of his life.
Yeah. And I think it's safe to say Vince McMahon is in that same category now.
Yes. Vince is in the upper echelon of one of the greatest business minds history has ever seen. Okay? He created a fucking global juggernaut that does not make him infallible. The people who commented on my channel saying that Vince was innocent and I bet she just made it up, victim shaming.
Oof. That's right.
You guys are sick, because this is not the first, second, nor third, nor fourth time Vince has been taken to court for sexual assault allegations. Are you forgetting that the woman Brock Lesnar is married to sued Vince for sexual harassment? Okay? Sable sued Vince for sexual harassment. Remember when he made Tori Wilson bark like a dog on live TV?
I think that was Trish, wasn't it?
Or Trish, sorry, Trish.
Yeah.
He forced Trish to bark like a dog on live TV. Remember when he forced Lita to do the live sex celebration with Edge when she said she didn't want to do it?
Yeah.
They threatened to fire her. Remember when they said they were going to have Crime Time come out and auction off her panties on the last night that she ever spent as a full-time active member in that company? She said, I'm not going to do that. They said, well, we'll fire you, and then you'll be in breach of your contract and you won't get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking coercion now.
Mm-hmm.
This is who Vince has always been.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a genius? Yes. Is he a fucking sicko? And I don't care what's alleged over here. We have testimony from previous things he has done that already label him as a sick son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Before this lawsuit. Don't come in my comments. That's the only thing I agree on with Tony Khan. Only thing is that Vince is a sick, depraved son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change the fact that Tony's ego has been destroying AEW for a year and a half. Week before last week, okay, their 18 to 49 demos were down like 0.02%. They had literally lost 50% of their overall audience that night, and they weren't even up against sports. They weren't up against NHL. They weren't up against NBA. They weren't up against the NFL. They were down 50% on the year. Mm-hmm. The previous year, they are down 50% from that week's show, year to date. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, they just went back up a little bit this past week. But I don't think that has anything to do with anything other than MJF is finally back. But if you only have one major fucking draw in your company, and I love Edge and I love Christian, but Edge does not draw in AEW like he draws in WWE. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Adam Copeland is not the same character Edge is. Okay? Mm-hmm. Same beloved, adorable, incredible human being. He's not playing the same character you fell in love with. Mm-hmm. And that's really the worst thing about AEW. bringing in other guys from other companies, major names, WWE guys, and putting them ahead of your homegrown talent, your day ones, putting them and booking them before guys like Jake Hager, who have improved since his WWE run as Jack Swagger, putting them and booking them and paying them more than people like MJF, which is what caused MJF to sit at home last year and threaten to not get on a plane or to get on a plane and go home and not come back until he was respected and paid the way that he felt he deserved to be. And MJF is your largest draw in your company that is a homegrown talent.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you sit here and you've got the pillars and all this. You cannot alienate your locker room by putting motherfucking clout chasers like Chris Jericho ahead of guys like Ricky Starks, okay? Ahead of guys like Aleister Black, okay? Where the fuck was Miro for almost a year? Because he wasn't injured. Remember when he was liking tweets of people saying you were better off in WWE?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's been disrespected. At least in WWE, he had Rusev Day. He had Lana. Now, and I sorry for their relationship ending, but he also had Cesaro. He literally had Aiden English, was it? They used to sing him into the ring.
Yeah. Aiden English.
He was over. He was getting featured. Even when he was in some bullshit, he was getting featured. When he was getting cucked by Dolph Ziggler, he was getting featured. Okay? When you have guys like career legends like Matt Hardy go on Busted Open Radio and literally say that they love Tony. Because look, everybody says the same shit when they leave AEW. We love Tony. But the place was terribly run, or it wasn't booked, or we weren't treated properly, or it was childish. Dean Ambrose, guys, literally is an AEW guy now. He's like their John Cena. Ultimate, reliable, when in doubt, put the title on him. He's that guy for them. He was quoted over a year ago stating that no matter this, out of every place he's ever worked, every company he's ever worked, this was the most immature, most toxic locker room he'd ever been in. Okay? He's still there because he's got a contract and he re-signed it, which I don't know why, because if you went back to fucking WWE, you couldn't do your ultra-violent CZW-style hardcore matches, but Triple H would book you right. Vince failed, and we're sorry, but Triple H ain't Vince. No, and at least when something doesn't go wrong, Dean, you're not being forced or asked to avoid your vacation that you were supposed to go on and take it 2 weeks late, 3 weeks late, so you could have a program to get the title off of fucking CM Punk. You're not being the guy who's being forced to miss out on his life just so you can help the company because they don't know how to book themselves out of a corner that they put themselves in.
Yeah.
It comes, and then you got like, okay, so now Nick Khan is willing to be one of the boys, right? And or at least he used to be, according to someone else, Gold Dust, freaking Dustin Rhodes, who was literally also on I think it was the Chris Van Vliet podcast, and he literally said I think it was about a month and a half ago he did that interview. And he said, sometimes like I love Tony. Apparently I'm one of Tony's favorite wrestlers. He loves it. And sometimes I wish, it would be a little bit more about the work, because I'll be sitting there and I'll be producing that night or coaching that night and I won't be on air, and I'll be talking to a talent, trying to get them prepped. And Tony's over here asking me, hey, do you remember that match or that thing you did in 1997 at this point? And he's kind of like, well, Tony, I'm in the middle of trying to do this. Shit. I'm sorry. Tony is a fucking mark.
Yeah.
You're interrupting the flow of your own show and production, okay? To have a fanboy moment. You are a billionaire fucking boss who's sitting here looking at the other company, WWE, and saying that they're unprofessional. You're sitting here halting your show so you can get fucking fan questions answered for yourself.
Right.
Don't forget, CM Punk begged Tony to do something about the goddamn Elite. He begged them. Do something about Jack Perry.
Yeah.
And he tucked his tail between his legs and said he didn't want to deal with it because he wants to be a friend. He doesn't want to be a boss. AEW will be better off if their board members force Tony to step out of the way and hire somebody like Scott D'Amore to come in and run creative, which was a major loss for TNA. I can't believe that shit. If I worked for TNA as a professional wrestler, I'd have signed that petition and letter to get him reinstated. Scott D'Amore, look, all respect to Dixie Carter. She's a lovely woman according to so many people. Never gotten to meet her. But my first ever, because I live in Merritt Island, Florida, where the Kennedy Space Center is. I'm 45 minutes away from Universal Studios, where we used to hold Impact and TNA wrestling on a weekly basis. I have been to those shows a million times. My 17th birthday, I stood in that ring and was saying "Happy Birthday" live on national fucking television. Okay, in that ring, I had pictures of me in that ring on the turnbuckle. That night, I got Devon, I got freaking Bully, I got AJ, I got freaking Ric Flair, I got fucking AJ Styles and Sting to all sign autographs for me.
Mm-hmm.
I personally know fucking Devon's two sons because they went to Vieira High School 20 minutes up the road from here. A lot of my friends know Devon's kids, his boys. You have with TNA so much potential.
Yeah.
That it was, if Dixie had known more about wrestling, if Dixie had the passion for wrestling that Tony does, Dixie was a better businesswoman, in my opinion, because she was smarter at keeping TNA alive a lot longer. But if you had given that passion that Tony had, put it in Dixie, TNA would have really become a two-to force against WWE.
Yeah, I'm still like to this day, I still don't know how they weren't like real competition, man. Having such
there they were, but they were what they're exactly what AEW is compared to now. The retirement home or the discarded island of misfit toys for WWE. That's what they were called in the beginning. Oh, all the ex-WWE guys just go to fill up TNA's roster. Oh, all the ex-WWE guys just go to fill up AEW's roster. AEW, who doesn't know how to book their way into a paper bag, who had fucking Mercedes Moné, Sasha goddamn Banks, hired for 2 months before they gave her a match. Bro, if she wasn't ready to get in ring due to that injury, why did you even you should have just saved her for 2 months to do a surprise appearance. Why would you announce her in advance? Just because when wrestling nowadays has so few surprises. She was a genuine surprise. Sasha is a draw if you book her right. If you don't make her talk the same bullshit for 2 months, getting nowhere in angles, just to finally have her do one match 2 months later, like, bro, why didn't you save her? Why are you announcing, oh, Mercedes Moné is all elite? Bro, she could have been a major, you know how big a pop she would have been if you would have waited till, let's say now, for like Wembley or something. You could have saved her. You could have saved her for the Forbidden Door. Considering she was wrestling over in Japan, you could have just had it hush-hush and quiet and made it look like she came through the Forbidden Door and then turned on Japan and fucking joined AEW. You could have had a whole angle. But Tony is so hell-bent on, I got to bump these ratings. I'm going to announce all these great surprises and draws in advance just to get people to tune in. And then he'll have them be in the first 3 fucking segments. And as soon as the segment's over, well, that was all I was on this channel for. Click.
Yeah.
That was all I wanted to see. Click. I don't need to watch the rest of the show. Click. Goodbye.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of like on the fence about buying this Forbidden Door today, man. The only match that I'm really even a little bit excited to see is the Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland match, but
that will be a good match. But I guarantee you'll catch the cliff notes on TikTok.
But I'm like, yeah, but I'm that's what most likely what I'm gonna do. But I'm just like, I'm split because I like both of these guys, and that whole arena is going to be split in this match. Like, who do you cheer for? You cheer for the new guy, Will Ospreay, that just came in and he's like this big ass star, or do you cheer for the first ever African American world champion in AEW? Like,
it is, and they are both ridiculously incredible talents.
Yeah, dude.
So, I'm a little miffed at Ospreay because I feel like he had a big hand in Ricochet not resigning. And that made me mad. I'm like, look, AEW, you can't try to look, Ospreay was entitled to his opinion. It's how he feels. He had bangers with Ricochet. He wants one more feud with Ricochet. Okay, then Ospreay, why don't you sign with WWE? Because you know for a fact that AEW's roster is over how many people now? 150? Almost 200.
A shit ton.
And how many of those motherfuckers are featured on TV? So you're gonna have Ricochet come over to AEW. Tony Khan will pay him whatever the fuck he wants. Tony will do whatever it takes to take guys from WWE because he's got a hard-on vendetta. Okay, he's in a feud with himself. Okay, WWE is not competing with AEW because they're crushing them.
Right.
Okay, Tony Khan is literally marking out for himself on this. He's in a war with himself. Congratulations, you won the Wednesday Night Wars. Woohoo! NXT before it got good again. Look at NXT's numbers now. Okay? Let's have a Wednesday Night War again. Let's do it again. Because that was a Wednesday Night War when Triple H was partially booking it, but Vince kept interjecting in everything he was trying to do. Okay? So let's have it now where Shawn and Triple H are both working on it together. And now let's see it do. Because NXT is a strong brand right now. NXT doing numbers that are better than TNA, and on some weeks it's doing better than TNA and AEW combined. Okay, and when you got to realize that you'll sign a guy like Ricochet to AEW, pay him the moon and the stars, sure. You'll have him in 2 to 3 months worth of really high profile matches because he's the new guy, the new shiny toy, and then he's going to sit at home, and be on the show maybe twice a month. You had fucking, and I'll never get over this, you had fucking Miro. You had him right there. What a waste of his time. Of his time. This poor guy. What a waste. Yeah. And it's like, and Osprey, you think that that Ricochet is going to get better treatment than a guy with the look and athleticism of Miro? Ricochet will be a highlight reel for AEW like he's a highlight reel for WWE, and he'll get paid a little bit more. But to go over there and do what he wants to do for one match when you'll sign a 3-year deal, what are you going to do? After Ospreay is over, what do you do? I don't ever see Tony Khan ever making a world champion out of Ricochet. And I don't see WWE making a world champion out of Ricochet either. But
he can join the learning tree with Chris Jericho or join a faction or something.
That's another thing. Everybody in AEW is in a fucking group. So if you're in a group, how do you shine as an individual performer when 80% of that company is in a faction? How do you stand out? Okay? Because in the faction, there's always going to be that one guy who's really the guy on the stick. So, and to wrestling fans, the guy that talks the most is the leader. So even when the Shield was together, everybody was on the mic, but everybody always thought Ambrose was the leader. Ambrose always cut the promos. He passed to Seth for like 40 seconds, and then Roman would finish with "Believe in the Shield," and that was it. But Ambrose always did the talking. So everybody always said Ambrose was the leader. Yeah. Then it turns out they go, well, we never really wanted Ambrose to be the leader. It was really Seth because he's the architect. He was the leader. He led the Shield. But that's not canonical. That's not canonically true. But it's because Dean is now over in AEW as John Moxley. They can't acknowledge that he led the Shield because he's an AEW top guy. And the thing is with AEW, they gave Mox everything he wanted, but the dude has been going through it for a couple of years now over there, dealing with the bullshit, the drama, all the shit he hates. He's been vocal about hating drama, social media, the immaturity. Yeah. I mean, you should never have your talent be executive vice presidents.
Right. No, that's a good point. And the thing about the ratings, man, that's one of the topics that, I like to cover a lot, even though some people, they're not really big on the ratings, which is cool. To each his own. I like to talk about it. We saw the Dynamite from June 19th drew the lowest rating ever, which was an average of like 500,000 viewers, which is bad for
history.
Yeah, it's bad for for wrestling numbers or like wrestling shows. That's a pretty low number. But I have a quote here from Tony Khan. Yeah. And I wanna get your opinion on this quote that Tony Khan was asked about the low ratings, and Tony said that we've had historically really strong numbers and maintain really strong numbers in TV, and that's the thing we need to do is keep doing what we're doing because the numbers we have are numbers people in TV would kill to have. And this was Tony Khan. Yeah, what is your opinion on that?
He's saving face and he's full of shit.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of, so for those of you who don't know, AEW has been in the middle of TV rights negotiation deals for months now. And so their network has not been happy with their numbers since the beginning of the year. And they knew that if they needed any kind of bartering power to get more money for their next TV negotiation deal, they wanted more money for the next however many years the contract would be for, next 5 years or whatever, because they wanted to bring in more wrestlers, pay guys more. When it comes to raises and salaries and everything else, you need more money. You keep bringing people in and paying them fucking $1.3 million a year contracts, you're going to run out of money. I don't care if you're a billionaire. And the problem is, when you're sitting here and the public numbers, the Nielsen rating public numbers are, you in the last 2 weeks have not only been the lowest in your own recorded history of 5 years, because I think we're about at 5 years now, right? The 5th year anniversary just happened. And you're now down 50% year to date from the previous year. And you have been consistently going down year on year since your inception. Okay. And you basically fired and Jack Perry helped fucking manipulate Punk's anger to get him in trouble on purpose, because that was 100% on purpose. And CM Punk told no lies. We saw the security footage. Punk shouldn't have put his hands on him, no, but sometimes a motherfucker needs to get hit. Sometimes a motherfucker just needs to get hit. And Jack Perry is a pompous jackass. Bully Ray himself said it. Said when he met him, came down, he was courteous. Bully Ray does not have to give you his time. That's a fucking legend. That's one half of the Dudley Boys. Okay? He said Jack Perry brushed him off.
I think I did hear about that.
Who the fuck are you? That is Bully fucking Ray. Who the fuck are you? So you've got guys like that you allow to get away with bullshit in your fucking company. Except you've got so you got Perry, Nick, and Matt Jackson. And I'm not even going to put, honestly, I'm not even going to put Kenny Omega in there, because Kenny is the only one who actually seems to not be toxic in their group. That night that the brawl out incident happened, Kenny and Punk, before they separated, actually sat down and tried to work it out that night.
Right.
Kenny is the only mature adult in the fucking elite. Okay? And then you got idiots like fucking Adam Page, who incited all the toxicity against Punk first. It doesn't matter who fucking
Where the hell is Kenny now? They wrote him off, huh? He just never came back.
He's injured again. He's got some problems acting up again.
Okay.
But you have guys like Adam Page inciting all this toxicity started with Adam Page going into business for himself in that promo against Punk. It started with him. I don't give a shit that Colt Cabana is your friend. Look, it's commendable. Defend your friend. Even Punk said, look, I get it. I respect you. Defend your friend. But this is a business. This is money. You just could have sabotaged $1 million gate that was built off of Punk's back, off of his name, his drawing power, which it was. Okay.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't see anybody. I don't see $1 million lying around for Adam Page.
Right.
Okay. Jack Perry. You think Jack Perry's drawing $1 million house? when your top guy in your company is doing good, when your top guy is doing good, everybody makes more money. You should never be trying to dethrone your guy that you know is a legitimate, historically proven fucking draw. Because the more money he makes, the more people come in that building, the more people are at the merch tables buying your gear, going online to yourshop.com and buying your belts, your products, going to meet and greets and signing and paying to meet you because he's there too. And now they want to see you because you're there too. Punk was making you guys bank. One Bill Phil. Okay? He was making y'all bank and you fucking choked. You let a guy like Jack Perry and the Jacksons and Adam Page make such a and fuck Chris Jericho, the clout chaser, for calling him a cancer to the locker room. Homie, you haven't been a good wrestler in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you know you're stale when you've got to reinvent yourself at least twice a year.
That feels like more than that at this point, you know?
Like, what was it? Painmaker, fucking Learning Tree. What was the one right before this? Where he was
at one point he was like a magician or something like that, or a wizard.
The wizard. And I'm just like, bro. Yeah. I'm like, the last guy I want to hear from is you. I respect you, Chris Jericho. I've met Chris Jericho when he was still in WWE years and years and years ago in 08 as the Intercontinental Champion. Or 07. I respect Chris Jericho a lot. But when you're a clout chaser and you're pushing a narrative and you're helping a narrative that is, one, we didn't have all the details and facts before you just decided to report that he was a cancer, everybody. So now everybody automatically, this is the internet, just jumps down Punk's throat. Punk sat at home for 8 months and just let people talk their shit. Didn't defend himself at all. Punk is the kind of guy who is chill and just wants to be left alone and have fun and make money. It's all about business. So when you've got immature assholes over here who are disrespecting legends like Arn Anderson, who were trying to sit there and give them pointers and saying you don't need his advice to his face, yeah, Punk's going to get fucking mad.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
He's an old school guy. That's like if you were to, that's like exactly the same thing that happened. Punk learned that through experience. It was the same reason Undertaker used to have a problem with him. When Punk was champion and didn't want to wear a suit, he said, well, Cena doesn't have to wear a suit. Why do I have to wear a suit? And it created this whole thing where it rubbed everybody the wrong way. But Punk learned, you don't disrespect the veteran. You listen. You understand. Because there is, in this industry, traditions.
Yeah. And
some of them are outdated. But there's nothing non-traditional about respecting the guys who are the reason you're there in the first place. You wouldn't have a passion for professional wrestling if the fucking Four Horsemen didn't exist. Without the Four Horsemen, you don't get groups inspired like a fucking Legacy, like Evolution, like The Shield, the Elite, who definitely have inspiration from the Four Horsemen. You can't do that. So when this whole company fosters a toxic work environment, everybody's work rate goes down. Everybody's head is not in the game, and that is going to affect your fucking ratings because the fans sense it through the TV. And when we turn on TikTok or the news, we're seeing all this fucking information about all this horrible backstage shit going on there. And we're like, bro, it's a bunch of fucking kids, bro.
Dude, that's what's turned. I think I'm one of those fans too, dude. I remember being excited for Wednesdays to watch AEW, and then I'm at the point where I don't even tune in, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. You know, I'll just catch the highlights on YouTube or something, and that's where I'm at now, dude. And it sucks, but they got a lot of go away heat with me now, man.
Literally, I will watch AEW the moment I hear Tony Khan is stepping out of creative and the EVPs are no longer allowed to have their hands in the pot, and demote them from EVPs, and then fucking hire somebody like a Scott D'Amore or someone else akin to that to be the head booker.
Right.
For fuck's sake, get Mark Henry in there to head book. Get somebody. Because you don't need a fan in there. Because the biggest reason most people lose interest in AEW is, look, if I just wanted to watch nonstop sports or stories, I'd turn on Major League Baseball or football and just watch the same shit every fucking week where it's just a match happening. Wrestling is first and foremost about storytelling. It's about storytelling first and foremost. The moves are cool. The moves are great. You need them to tell the story in ring. But overarching, what got you to the ring? What is the reason you're having this match? Because then if it's just a whole match card, a whole 2 hours of exhibition, okay, great. I got to see great in-ring performers. I got to see phenomenal talent doing phenomenal things.
Right.
But why am I still staying tuned at an hour and a half? Because
that's the question, dude. That's the question. And Eric Bischoff too, he's a big critic when it comes to that. And he was asked, like, oh, you know, are you excited for Forbidden Door? You know, what do you expect from Forbidden Door? And I have a quote here from Eric Bischoff, where he's kind of talking about what you just said. He said, Eric Bischoff says, I expect to see great athleticism, probably a great example of what's technically possible from a physical perspective inside of the ring. Athletes are getting bigger, faster, stronger, just better in every sport. And the same is true in professional wrestling. So we'll see that. Probably buckets of blood. We'll see very little in-ring story. The only story that will exist will be in the imaginations of the minds of the diehard AEW fans, because a lot of the action people enjoy seeing is nonsensical. It's hard to suspend any disbelief. You're simply watching exhibition of athleticism. So that's pretty much, that sums it up, right?
You can't say Eric Bischoff is not a smart man, because everything he just said is 100% true. Everybody knows professional wrestling is scripted. Don't ever call it fake, because the things myself, a former performer, and all the current performers and the other former performers, the things that we put our bodies through, that's why we hate when people call it fake, because we know what we went through to get to that ring first off, and we know what it felt like when we woke up the next morning. Okay? The reason we hate that so much, Jesus Christ, my bump training for 2 months, I went home with purple and yellow splotch bruises across my shoulders and my middle back for 2 months. My mom, who didn't know I was trained to be a pro wrestler because she didn't like it because of my heart conditions, didn't know that every time I said I was going to work when I lived in Georgia and would drive 2 hours to Atlanta every day back, I would literally print out a fake schedule at the library in Atlanta, in Smyrna, because I worked at the Cumberland Mall. And I would doctor up a fake schedule to make it look like I worked on days I didn't, so I could go sneak off, do training, and then do shows.
Yeah.
Because I would go drive 2 hours there, have to work at like 1 o'clock, work till the mall closed at 8, and then we close, leave the mall 9:30, 10, 2 hour drive home. I get home at almost midnight.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. I could lie, make up a story, and then actually be at a show fucking 5 miles down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was one of those things where I loved my craft so much. I loved what I was doing so much. I was willing to lie to my own mother, falsify saying that lie and say my doctor approved of me doing this and signed off, said I'm okay to do it. Didn't forge a signature. It made up a doctor's name. Okay. And then they just works for me, handed it back to me. Okay. So no illegal activity happened there. Okay. And I was willing to put my body through that and literally cost myself money at my actual job, which I was a manager at, so I could do what I loved.
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody could sit there and look you in the eye and tell you it's fake, when I am in there telling you a story, you can't suspend disbelief with an exposition or an exhibition, because everybody knows that this is a choreographed thing, or you're calling it in the ring.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, shoot me here, drop down, take it. Like you're calling it, unless you heavily choreograph it like a Logan Paul match. But legitimately, without the storytelling, you can't get people to buy and suspend their disbelief. Look at the greatest wrestling story of the last fucking 20 years, the Bloodline. Okay. Hands down, greatest wrestling story, long-term booking of 20 years. You would not believe that Sammy could beat Roman unless you had the emotion of Sammy finally powering through Roman's abuse, standing in front of him, and you yourself, who has been bullied, who could probably relate, all these people who've been bullied, look at Sammy, who have ever been in an abusive relationship or a domineering relationship, who finally broke free of that mental anguish and said, you know what, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I can beat you because you don't own me. Mm-hmm. That story that connects with you, that's what makes you sit there, watch the match, and scream. Yeah. And cry. I mean, Ric Flair had the whole audience at WrestleMania in 2008, which I catered at that WrestleMania with my school. I was live for his retirement in Orlando.
Nice.
Him crying at the end of the match made everybody else cry in the building.
Yeah.
You can't have that if he just did a 40-year career of exhibition matches. No, it's because the story being told was that I'm not Old Yeller. I'm not done. You can't tell me I can't hang. I trained you. You can't tell me that I'm not good enough anymore, Sean. I'm a legend in this fucking business, and I'll prove it to you. And I'll put my career on the line. If I lose this match, I'm done. And I'm going to take you out back like Old Yeller. And it was the story of not master, but the teacher versus pupil. But a mutual respect of, I will do what I have to put you out of your misery. Well, I'll do what I have to prove to you that I'm not ready to go. And the storytelling is enough to make you cry. Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage reuniting, which made the world cry. You don't have that investment, that reaction, that emotion without storytelling. What was it, 3 to 4 years she was apart from him before they reunited? There wasn't a dry eye in the stadium. AEW doesn't know how to tell stories unless it's MJ fucking F or the Elite.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is there for startup 2K24, play, exhibition, one-on-one match, set rules, arena, and I just want to do Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. Entrance is on. Victory on. Start. That's what watching AEW is like. It's literally just having exhibition matches in 2K24 or Fight Forever. But at least in WWE, it's like playing fucking career mode or My Rise mode. It's literally a fucking story. It is a company that makes movies about wrestling.
Yeah. And
AEW is a company that just makes wrestling so they can make T-shirts.
That's a good point.
They're a T-shirt company. So I 100% agree with Eric Bischoff. Mm-hmm. He would know better than anybody else. He was the only person in history that came close to taking down WWE. Mm-hmm. AEW has never gotten anywhere near. Oh, we got close enough to take down NXT.
Yeah.
And typically get Triple H demoted for a short time being. That's your best shot?
Yeah.
Oh, well, AEW is a startup company. Bro, they've been open for 5 fucking years. They have a billionaire. They have enough money to be paying someone like CM Punk over $1.5 million a year salary. At what point do we stop saying they're a startup company as an excuse to defend their lack of creativity and ratings? Mm-hmm. Are you still a startup company if you have $1 million gate in your records? Are you still a startup? How are you a startup company? You have how many people in that roster are being paid well over 6 figures to 7 figures? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they got the star power to do it.
They got the star power. How are you a startup company? Chris Jericho, who loves to always fall back on that fucking comment, it's a startup company. Bro, for a startup company, you've had a lot of fucking gimmicks for a startup company. Right. To me, a startup company is you've been open 2 years. Because I'll tell you this as someone who's owned a couple businesses, former manager, general manager, and I was invested in an actual Italian pizza restaurant as an owner. And I also own my own pool route that I also started. And I own my own voice acting online chain. And I also teach voice acting online. As someone who's a business owner, I can tell you this for a fact. Any business is not considered profitable until it's at least been open 2 years. At 2 years, you would finally be able to say, after everything's paid, you recouped what it costs to open the business. It takes at least 2 years to be considered a viable, profitable business. 2 full years, 24 months. That is the statistic for businesses in the world of actual business. 2 years. Whatever it costs to open and start AEW, between TV, between fucking all the pay-per-views, the gates, all the money they've made, I think you've probably definitely made well over 20 to 30 fucking million by now. I would say you're no longer a startup company. It's a bullshit excuse because their egos are too big to say that we want to be direct competition to WWE, but we are nowhere near powerful enough. And the only person who was ever close to touching the iceberg of having Vince swallow his own nutsack was Eric fucking Bischoff. Eric would fucking know what it takes to survive WWE.
Yeah.
He was open for years before they became full-blown competitors, when What's-His-Fuck still had a hard-on for him at the network, and when they started kicking their ass 83 straight fucking weeks, there was Bischoff, there was Russo, there was Cornette, and they're all there. They all know what it. So I'll listen to those three guys over anybody else telling me criticisms about AEW. They know what it takes to beat WWE so badly that WWE had to change a full fucking directional course and out their own commentator as the fucking owner, make him get super jacked so he could stand toe-to-toe with Austin in the fucking ring, and then actually create a wave of change in the business.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an attitude era without Eric Bischoff. You don't.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's just the facts of life.
Yeah.
What is it going to take for AEW to realize that they need to change course, hire real writers, hire a real creative mind to get behind the actual creative force in production?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right now, their production isn't even as good as NXT's. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's basic 2009 TNA production. That's all it is. Sure, you've got the hard cam, but good for you. Look at what WWE's doing with their production. They make one fucking hallway walk of Sami Zayn in one continuous shot from fucking Jay walking out to Sami, then Sami talking to him, then Sami taking the camera back through the fucking crowd. They make that one video camera shot had more views that night than any clip of AEW Dynamite had from their show that week.
Yeah.
That should tell you something. Sami walking to the fucking ring for the arena had more views.
Mm-hmm.
One of your matches, your championship matches.
Yeah.
TNA, with this beautiful new working relationship with WWE, which, by the way, is the perfect time for Matt and Jeff to be able to come back in the fold, have one last run and retire, because this is their gateway back into the dub.
Mm-hmm.
And then be inducted into the Hall of Fame, either be the main inductees of next year or the year after, in my opinion. But TNA is looking like it's going to be on the fast track to, if they keep working with WWE and WWE keeps putting their people over, keeps getting people like Jordan Grace on there who are amazing talents.
Mm-hmm.
Introduce Dolph Ziggler as Nick Nemeth, maybe do an Asian angle of TNA to WWE again, but this time do it right. And,
man, I wish I would have sent you the there was some spoilers from the last episode of TNA that happened, I believe it was on Thursday, and they had more people from NXT show up on TNA.
I fucking believe it. And the better that, see, another thing that's great about Trips, Triple H, he's willing to put his ego aside for the betterment of the business, because he knows if the business is thriving, their company is thriving. Nick Khan knows it too. Nick Khan is a fantastic businessman. Okay? They both know, hey, we'll bring you up to our level, or at least on par with us. We'll feature you on our show with our superstars. We'll bump your ratings, because the more people that tune into TNA with this relationship going forward, the more people are going to tune into WWE. TNA fans will transfer over as WWE fans. WWE fans go, well, shit, I like some of those wrestlers. Hey, that was cool. Wait, what channel's that on? And they're going to start watching TNA. Give TNA, if this business relationship with WWE TNA turns out fruitful, because right now they're dipping their toes in the water, they're still courting each other. They haven't fully married yet. But if TKO ever wound up saying, how would you feel if we bought TNA?
Oh, damn! I never even thought about that. That'd be fucking crazy.
UFC and TNA under the TKO banner, but they still let TNA be run and operated the way it always has been, because the diehard fans are invested. But they pump so much, they're able to pump even more money into it, that TNA is able to start doing arenas.
That'd be dope, man.
Or tell you what, it'd be really helpful for TNA. Imagine this. They're owned by TKO. You know how they do like the superstars and the speed tapings?
Mm-hmm.
What if they fuck superstars? You put TNA in its place for the taping 2 hours, and you start taping TNA in front of live WWE audiences. TNA superstars start traveling with the WWE superstars as TNA becomes their fourth brand.
Yeah.
And then watch.
That'll put more attention onto their shows too, with the in that arena setting.
Yeah, and you start letting WWE help TNA with its production.
Mm-hmm.
WWE helping TNA, which they almost worked together in the past, but Vince just couldn't get out of his own way. They almost had a working relationship years ago.
Mm.
Triple H, if he fosters this, him and Nick foster this, because they're at the heads of this thing. You could see TNA potentially overtaking AEW in the ratings in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's. I mean, TNA averages what, 150 to 200 something thousand views a week. In the ratings.
I believe so. Yeah.
You put. What if we had Cody Rhodes go over 1 week?
Mm-hmm.
What if Cody Rhodes went to go over there and talk to Nick Nemeth or whoever the champion is right now? Like, imagine. And this time it won't be a surprise. That is the one thing Tony doesn't get. Genuine surprises are important, but this would be, you want to really help teenage ratings? You announce WWE Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes stops by TNA Impact. Like, what he's going to be on TNA? What's he going to say? Who's he going to talk to? What's going to happen? Maybe CM Punk stops by to visit, runs into Jeff Hardy. I remember the last time I talked to you, I made you leave WWE and you showed up on this show. This time I decided to follow you here. Like, there's so many things you could do.
Yeah.
But AEW, I don't care who you partner with. Nobody you partner with is bigger than the dub. They're not bigger than the Fed. They're not. You should have shook hands with WWE and let bygones be bygones a couple years ago, Tony. This could have been you, but now TNA is about to reap the benefits of your fucking inability to get out of your.
Oh, lost him. What happened? That was Mr. Bludd. I don't know where he went. You're gonna have to edit this out. This is a bonus episode, a extra episode. I usually just do an hour, but we had more time with Mr. Bludd here. I think he's coming back. Mr. Bludd, I can't see you if you can hear me. Your camera went out. But I think on there he is.
Hey, I don't know what the hell happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did your phone die? Hello? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Mic check, 1, 2. You can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You can hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
What? What the hell? Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
I have no idea.
Can you would refreshing it help?
Let me see. Let me try. Mic check. Hello?
Can you hear me? I can hear you now.
What the hell? That was weird.
So, my best friend I was telling you about, the Unforsakens?
Uh-huh.
He just called me. And and I hit end. I ignored his call and it knocked the mic out for some reason.
Dang.
So now we're good. With him after we get done here and be like, yo, dude.
I feel bad. No, it's good. I feel bad because we had a few people they've been riding with us this whole time, listening to our conversation, and when I refreshed it, everyone just went away. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Bludd is gone. It's time to go now."
Did you let them know that we were having a technical issue?
Yeah. While you were out, I was like, "Oh shit, I lost him, but I think he's coming back. Hold on, don't go anywhere." And then I
I'm
think
gonna
they're
have to
starting.
kill Jonathan now. I'll be like, you son of a bitch.
I think they're starting to come back now. But yeah, man. Yeah, I was just saying, that's kind of where I'm at now with with all this AEW business, man. Unfortunately, um, I'm just gonna see what the highlights for this Forbidden Door. But if you had to choose one winner out of that Osprey and Swerve match, who do you think? Who are you rooting for there?
This one's easy for me, Swerve. Mainly because AEW it's making the same problems that the Attitude Era Vince was making. Every 5 fucking minutes, someone else is the champion. They throw these belts around like dodgeballs, man. Like there's like AEW, especially in the beginning, there's a new fucking champion every 5 minutes. Okay? Mm-hmm. There's a new champion every 5 minutes now. The one thing Triple H has done correctly is he has done long-term storytelling, long-term booking, and long title reigns. The championship does not make the wrestler. The wrestler makes the championship. Okay? Swerve deserves and has earned time to make that belt great, prestigious. Gunther, look, Sammy's win would not have been nearly as impactful at Mania had Gunther not held that title for 666 days.
Oh man, that was huge.
Yeah. Do I still believe that I think Chad should have been the one in there because Chad needed a Mania moment? Yes. Because Sammy got his Mania moment last year with Kevin. But I still believe, and everybody knows because I said this in my WrestleMania 40 review that weekend, that I thought Sammy was the wrong choice. And even though the match was good, I did not like how they did the finish. This isn't Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton. Gunther, you're the ring general. Why are you mocking Sammy's fucking family? Taking your eyes off the ball. This is WrestleMania. I thought that was a really dumb way to book a finish. He gets distracted by Sammy's wife. Comes in, gets hit with a fucking brain buster, 2 haluva kicks, done. Like, this is Gunther. He beat Drew and Sheamus in Mania in the same night, stacked them for a pin. How the fuck do you take your eye off the ball? You think this would be the one match you're dialed in. So it's the same thing when I look at WWE, or not WWE, but AEW, and I think, why does Will need the championship right now? Swerve is doing a great job. And he hasn't had it very long. He's had it for what, 2.5, 3 months now?
Yeah.
And why can't he have a longer reign? Why is it that the only champion that is ever allowed to have a decent long reign in AEW is MJF? Why? What is it that he's the only guy you're willing to keep the title on for a long enough time? You know what the problem is? You hired too many people, Tony, and now you're trying to give everybody their time in the sun, so you're not allowing the person that's currently in the sun to get a fucking can. Okay? Yeah. So everybody comes out looking like Sheamus. And as far as I'm concerned, Swerve should have that title. I think it's perfect that he's the first African-American to ever hold the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, but also in professional wrestling, it's very rare that African-American champions are treated with any kind of long-term respect. Yeah. I mean, look no further than who's the one fucking country bumpkin ass North Dakota fucking living animal hunting white guy that ended 2 of the last African-American world champions' reigns. His name was Brock Lesnar. There goes Big E, there goes Kofi. And if I remember correctly, what happened to Bobby Lashley in that Elimination Chamber? Okay? So you remember, he was already injured going in, so they took him out early just so they could get the title off him. Who won that match?
I refresh my memory. I don't remember.
If I remember correctly, that Elimination Chamber was won by Brock.
Okay. I think so. That sounds about right.
So it was, unless my memory is serving me incorrectly.
No, you're right. I just have a bad memory when it comes to those
things. It's possible. It's because we've had a lot of Brock fucking wins where he shouldn't even be the guy winning. Let's not forget, for some stupid reason, Mustafa Ali being frozen at the top of a ladder when goddamn Brock Lesnar is 300 feet away. And he's like, I can't unhook it because it's frozen with fear.
Yeah.
And then Brock, who's not even in the match, runs down, takes the fucking briefcase,
and just wins it. Yeah, I remember that part.
Because if I remember correctly, they made Michael Cole, and by they, I mean Vince made Michael Cole insert the bullshit rule. Well, technically, it's whoever's in control of the briefcase at the end of the match is the holder. The fuck?
Yeah, bullshit.
These niggas had to qualify.
Yep.
And pardon the N-word, guys, I'm half black, so. but it's one of those things where I look at that and I go, Swerve deserves it. And just like when Kofi won and everybody was crying, all the African American wrestling community was crying. All those videos they posted, Shelton, fucking MVP in tears, all these people. It means the same amount, pardon me, for Swerve Strickland. Now, does it mean, was it as powerful as Kofi's win? No. Kofi had been there for so many years and put in so much time and had paid so many dues and was beloved by everybody. Kofi, more than anybody at that point, deserved it. And Bryan Danielson, being the stand-up guy that he is one who pushed for Kofi to beat him for it. Because he said it's his time. He deserves it. Bryan Danielson is the one who legitimately advocated and campaigned for Kofi to be the one to take the title off at Mania. That tells you that even his peers realized, I'm willing to drop this so you can be the guy, because it should have happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it should have.
Yeah.
You know, Swerve, same thing. It's his time. Let the young buck run with it. Because I'm tired of bucks. I'm tired of cowboys all being the guys that get a say.
True. Yeah, that's true, man. And with that, Mr. Bludd, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the show and talking to me, man. I hope to have you back soon again, dude. I usually do like an hour, man, but I really enjoyed this conversation with you so much. So I
also rant and rave a lot.
So. No, that's great, dude. That's what we're here to do. You know, when I have my guests on, I want them to do all the work. So you did all the work for me today.
Because I got a lot of opinions on wrestling. I got a lot of ideas, and this being, and by the way, I want to say this because I can't see how many people are in here, but who's ever in here now and whoever is seeing this later, because I will be putting clips on my channel. And by the way, please give me a follow on TikTok at Mr. Bludd, or search Blood Rush Wrestling Podcast. Please give me a follow. I'm this close to 10,000, and we're going to make this channel bigger. But guys like Edgar here, okay, SNUG Wrestling, if you're watching this but you're not a follower of his on TikTok, you need to go over there. You should already be following, because this is a guy who's got a mind for the business just like I do. This is a guy who understands wrestling psychology. This is a guy who I would love to have on my podcast when I start one on YouTube. You're welcome anytime, because you're a guy that I had so much fun with this being my first time. This was genuinely I was excited for this for days. When I told my wife, she goes, shoot, my wife was so happy for me, because she's like, you've been wanting to do that for so long. So awesome. If I was going to do it anywhere, SNUG Wrestling, right here where you're getting your podcast, SNUG Wrestling with Edgar. This was the place for Mr. Bludd, a Blood Rush Wrestling Podcast. This is where I should have done it. This is where I popped my cherry for this, and I'm glad I fucking did it. This was fun, cool, informative, and I just had a great fucking time with a like-minded guy who enjoys the business and loves it as much as I do. And that's what we're here for, folks. Professional wrestling is for the fandom, and it's for the community. And if you love professional wrestling, you should be in a community like this, speaking your mind, having fun, and talking about the things you hope just happen, things that have happened, and things that will happen. Because that's what professional wrestling is about, the ride. It's the wave. It's the fucking story. This was absolutely, bar none, the most fun I've had in a week. And I'm glad you had me on, and thank you.
Hell yeah, dude. No, I appreciate that. Definitely, for sure. And I had a blast. And hopefully we do this again soon.
Bro, you can have me on anytime. This was fucking fun as hell. Anytime you want to have me on, you shoot me a message. We'll set it up. Count me in. No question.
Yeah. Love it, man. Love to hear it. So follow Mr. Bludd and follow me, Edgar, at SNUG Wrestling. Thank you guys for listening, and we will talk soon.
Have a good night, guys.